I'm here. I'm just getting something ready real quick. There's a sound that's coming out of my mic. I don't know what it is. But it sounds horrible. I think that helps. This should. Okay, I don't know what this is doing. Nope. Okay, hang on a minute. Oh my god. Okay. This all happens to me, and I don't know why. I have things set up beforehand, and it never goes as planned. Try this again.
Even drove around the lake known as Hidden Lake near his childhood home.
And if you hear my dog bark, I just had somebody drive up in the driveway. Hey, I tell you guys, every time I try to go do a live stream or something, I get hit with like 4 or 5 different things at once. Either I knock my computer over and break my camera, or somebody shows up, or something blows up, or all the above. So I'm gonna start this over, and if you hear my dog bark, just ignore him. Just ignore me too.
Following news story is about psychologist Dr. John Matthias. We visited his high school in Barrington, Illinois, and even drove around the lake known as Hidden Lake near his childhood home. What began as a simple vetting process turned into a case of its own. And that is the story we are bringing you tonight.
So the first thing that we're going to do is look at this timeline. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here. Hang on just a second. You're just going to see a black screen for just a minute. Okay. Oh yeah. I'm getting there. Okay. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to go through this whole timeline from the time John Matthias was a child until 2026. I'm going to kind of do a generalized, just going to kind of gloss over a few things, and then we'll go back and visit some things in depth. And this is going to be the first part of a 3-part miniseries, because there's just a lot to unpack here. And I don't know if you all had seen, last week I had done I had posted the federal case where John Matthias had been hired by the defense, and where his evaluations that he had given, the court basically said they were not credible and everything. Anyway, I had posted that last week. I have the link to my Google Drive where I have it, and then I also have the transcripts. And so if y'all didn't see that, I think Hella did a live like a few days ago over that, where she read actually part of it. But if you want the whole thing, and if you want to see the transcripts and everything, I have it all there, and we'll look at that too. But okay, so one second. Let me go to. I'm going to pull the timeline up, and wow, I thought I had this in dark mode because I can't stand reading anything that's bright. I have one eye that the bright light just really bothers me a bit. I'm going to do it because I don't want to jack with anything else tonight on here. I'll probably screw something else up. Okay, so where are we at? This. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm loading it. So this is all chronological order, and it's really John Matthias and Lauren, but I should not wrote unholy. I should not have put unholy birth. Okay, sorry. Sometimes I get a little carried away when I'm writing things down. But 1963, we have the birth of John Matthias on July 14th. 1969, that's the infamous John Matthias fell from a car and was run over by a semi-truck. And I don't know if any of y'all have seen that story, but he had that. If you can find it on the Wayback Machine, because it's from his John Matthias. No, I think it might be from strivepsychology.com. I think that's where it's at. And I can put the link up. Actually, when I get through reading this, we'll just go over it. But something interesting about that is we all know that whenever he was talking about that, he said that from the car and a semi-truck ran over him, spit him out the back. He was hit by the muffler, and it bloodied him up pretty bad, cut him up pretty bad. And I don't know what he's talking about on the muffler part because, like a lot of us know. I mean, I was raised around mechanics. I think I told you guys a long time ago that. Bye. I think I told you guys a long time ago about being raised by my stepdad, and he pretty much had a nationwide chop shop, and it just covered the whole nation, and actually went down in Mexico too. But anyway, I know cars. Let's put it that way. And I don't know a whole lot about semi-trucks, but I know that they have stacks. Their mufflers are stacks on the side of each side of the cab, and that's where the black smoke comes out of when you see them driving down the road. And it's kind of weird to think that a grown man would be writing a story like he got hit by the muffler underneath the does he not? I don't know. It's odd to me. I mean, I knew he was a 12-year-old kid. I mean, it's almost the same thing as, I think I've said it before. It's almost the same thing as saying You got to fix the radiator in your vintage VW Bug, you know? It's hilarious. And if you don't get that joke, a VW Bug doesn't have a radiator. So, anyway, I just think it's odd that he didn't know that. Anyway, so back to the timeline here. So, 1980, we have the birth of Lauren Johnson. 1981, spring high school graduate. John Matthias graduated as valedictorian of Barrington High School and was one of several chosen to participate in the all-star football teams. And I can only find this page in his yearbook that talks about his, when it talks about his academics, it doesn't say that he was a valedictorian. So I couldn't confirm that he was a valedictorian. All I could find was that there were 10 students on this one page that talked about them being chosen by the yearbook staff as being those that were chosen for their academics. I mean, was he a valedictorian? I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find it in the newspapers. It's just weird. And I have those yearbook pictures too. And I'm going to show them to you here in a minute, but I'm going to go over the rest of this here. 1981, fall college freshman. 1986, John Matthias graduated as a fifth-year senior from University with a bachelor's degree in philosophy. Played college football as a reserve second-string backup player. John saw very little play his college years due to being a reserve player. When John did play, he would end up with injuries that would cause him to sit out most of the year. One year, he sat out the whole season from a case of mono. Come across an item in the Princeton records that confirmed of the McCosh Prize in philosophy. Here things get a little fuzzy. 1986 through 1989, that's what I call the failure to launch. John says he traveled through the western United States, and through his self-published blog, he states he survived an encounter with a bear, a mountain lion, and a buffalo state, where the bison, I didn't say that earlier, where the bison grew to magical proportions of 3 tons. His words, not mine. Now, he may or may not have been smoking the devil's lettuce during this period as well. Just my own personal opinion here, because I have never seen a bison that is 3 times the weight of an average bison. I raise bison. The average weight for a good size male bison is about 2,000 pounds. They're normally in the weight range of about 1,500 to 2,000. So, I have not seen one that's 3 tons, which would be 6,000 pounds. I mean, that's pretty fucking big. Anyway, moving on. 1989. John Matthias, living with his parents, apparently. More failure to launch. He claims to have found a portal after these near-death after these near-death experiences and begin to see visions of grandiosity. Oh wait, wrong seer. I know why I put that in there, because I was looking at the Chad Daybell stuff, and I was like, what the heck? there's a whole lot of similarities between him and Chad Daybell. And then I'm like, what the crap? It's like they both claim these wild experiences. I mean, I've come across, out here where I live, I've come across a mountain lion. I was in my car and it was crossing the road, and I thought it was a dog at first, and then I thought, man, that dog moves like a cat. And then I thought, man, that dog has a really long tail. And then I thought, holy shit, that's a cat. That's a really big cat. And then it dawned on me, it was a mountain lion. I mean, because your mind just doesn't. If you're someone who's been hiking or something and you come across like a mountain lion or something, you don't, your brain doesn't, if you've never seen one before, you don't comprehend that's what you're seeing at first. It's weird. But he's seen a bear, a mountain lion, and was in the middle of the buffalo stampede. And I've seen my buffalo out here, and when they get nutty, there's nothing, they're not going to part for anything. They're going to run right over the top of whatever the fuck's in their way. It doesn't matter. You're going to be flattened out. They don't care. They'll run over you like you are nothing. And if you think you're going to outrun one, they run 45 miles an hour. So I don't think you're going to run that fast. If you're John Matthias, you just might. I don't know. Excuse me. Anyway. So, in 1989, it seems to be that he was just, or until 1989, after he graduates, seems like he was just kind of having a couple of years that he took off and was just kind of doing some couch surfing, maybe some hiking. You know, some people take a year and go to Europe. I didn't get to do that, but you know, some of us had to work. Anyway, 1990s to the 2000s, he, in the middle, I'll just read it off here. At some point in the mid-90s, around 1996, John earned his master's degree from the Rossier School of Education in child marriage family therapy. It's interesting to note that the director of this program is one of John's mentors. He mentions later on in his 2005 Agassi Foundation, she was a director on this foundation. She was paid a salary. And it appears while sitting as and she was involved in some of these other programs. And these other programs, they were receiving huge sums of money from the Andre Agassi Foundation. Maybe a conflict of interest, I don't know. Maybe to remove herself from any decision making going into financial decisions. I don't know how, since she was a main player, but who knows. But from what is on paper, she's director of a huge foundation taking money and putting it into other foundations that she's affiliated with. And on the surface, that looks as though it may be fraud. But I haven't investigated this further. I'm sure any statute of limitations has ran out, even if it was. But what it does look like is it could possibly harm her reputation with the university as far as being ethical and above board with everything. 2000 through 2004, John has a relationship with that same professor, Fran, and she's listed as a director of the Andre Agassi Foundation, which we just mentioned. She is one of his mentors. John mentions that is in a supervisory role in his education. Now, this mentor also appears to be signing off on his educational hours in his intern programs. John and this professor enter into a financial obligation together in the purchase of a house. So it doesn't really matter what kind of relationship they have. It doesn't matter if she is a relative or a girlfriend or a friend or whatever. Because with them both being listed as owners on the deed and they both have an equal interest in this estate. And that's important. She now also has an interest in his success because of this financial commitment. So from at least 2000 to 2004, I'm not sure how the university understood this relationship, but it doesn't matter if you're related, which I found no proof of because I did do some genealogy on this, or if you're in that romantic relationship, the fact is that you're now tied to someone financially. So you are going to make sure that they receive good grades and that they accumulate all the needed hours, that they can get started on a good path to success, or else you're out on the street, so to speak, right? Because you're financially involved. So we have a lot of tangled relationships, tangled educational ties to different foundations and programs and titles, and just a lot of tangled knots. 2005. The USC website shows John Matthias' degree as the following. Degree, PhD in education, in parentheses, counseling psychology, from the Rossier School of Education at USC. Doctorate in philosophy. And I did look up whether they were an APA accredited school, and they are not. 2006, John Matthias obtained his Nevada General Psychology license. September 2006, John then purchased his second home in Henderson, Nevada. December 2006, Lauren Johnson graduated from the University of Utah with a bachelor's in mass communication, not really journalism in the traditional sense. She reports she studied abroad in Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. 2007, John became clinical director at FACT and claimed to start this year as adjunct assistant professor at the University of Las Vegas as well. However, this has been unverified and we are not sure why. It does appear he may have helped a handful of students as an off-site supervisor at some point. This just means he was overseeing doctoral students' work in some capacity, but was not faculty, and it was kind of more of a, it seems to be more of a continuing education type deal, but we don't really know. There is a letter from the University of Las Vegas that has been floating around that I have a copy of, and I'll show that too. I just wanted to get through the time reading of the timeline first, and then I'll go back. June 2009, John registered his first Nevada business, Odyssey Psychology LLC, later renamed Odyssey Quest LLC. 2011, John purchased a house in Utah. March 2013, Lauren married her first husband, and the couple moved to Boston. 2013 through 2014, Lauren created her first documentary film, and I have a link to that as well. March 2014, Lauren worked as reporter anchor for Idaho on Your Side in Boise, Idaho. February 2015, Lauren's divorce from Brian was finalized in Ada County, Idaho. September 2015, Lauren met Matthias by phone, quit her job in Idaho, and moved to Utah to live with him. February 2016, John proposed to Lauren at Delicate Arch in Utah. July 2016, John Matthias, age 53, and Lauren Johnson, age 36, were married on July 14th, this day. 2017, their child was born. The Utah house was placed into the house. John obtained his Utah psychology. 2019, the Matthias family in Henderson, Nevada. June 2020, the Matthias family trust sold their Utah house. Hidden True Crime launch. January 2021, the Hidden True Crime YouTube channel. June 2021, Nevada business entity renamed the Hidden Productions LLC. September 17th, John Matthias interviewed on Fox News about the Gabby Petito case. September 23, 2021, Lauren and John appeared on the Mormon Stories podcast discussing the Daybell case. November 14th, 2021, there was a short interview on Dateline NBC with John. And I think it was John and Lauren. Was it just John? I can't remember now. 2023, Lauren Matthias was added as manager of Hidden Productions LLC. December 2024, articles of organization for Hidden Productions LLC were amended. You can find all that on the Secretary of State website. The Matthias family claims they goes on a live stream for 9 hours to explain why she believes she is a victim of stalking. She filed a stalking injunction based on those claims. She has CM removed from CrimeCon based on her claims, and the ex parte stalking injunction CM has no idea has been. When the court date finally arrives, the judge dismissed all of Lauren's claims, stating he believes she was trying to silence free speech because CM had done nothing more than state her opinions. And then we arrive at 2026. And I thought I had hinted that, maybe I didn't. I've got it here. Okay. In 2026, we have people that verification of the record. So, the recent decision by former clients, journalists, and others to independently verify John's publicly stated credentials, educational background, and claimed areas of medical and forensic expertise should not be viewed as unusual. It should be viewed as responsible. When an individual presents themselves as an expert witness, psychologist, or medical professional, the public has every right and arguably every obligation to verify those claims through publicly available records before relying on that person's opinions or services. Based on my education in criminal justice, my experience evaluating credibility, and my own observations of John's responses to perceived criticism over the years, I believe there is a probability that routine fact-checking, can even talk, will be interpreted not as due diligence, but as a personal attack. My expectation is that individuals who simply attempt to verify his educational background or professional qualifications through public records may be portrayed as stalkers or as engaging in harassment, despite the fact that researching publicly available information is neither stalking nor harassment. Did I say harassment or harassment? Oh my God. It is standard investigative practice. The central question is remarkably simple. If someone publicly claims to be an expert in forensic psychology, what is the educational and professional pathway that led to that expertise? There may be a perfectly reasonable explanation. If so, that explanation should be straightforward and transparent. For example, if the claim rests on an educational degree in counseling psychology within a school of education, followed by years of supervised clinical experience, specialized training, licensure, internships, certifications, or courtroom experience, then those facts should be explained openly. Transparency resolves confusion. Secrecy creates it. What has puzzled many people is not necessarily the credentials themselves, but the apparent reluctance to clearly explain how an educational background associated with counseling psychology in a school of education evolved into decades of work in clinical and forensic settings while publicly using titles that many people naturally associate with doctoral level clinical psychology training. That is a legitimate question. Asking it is not an accusation. It is simply requesting clarification. If the qualifications fully support the expertise being claimed, then producing that explanation benefits everyone. It protects the professional's credibility and gives patients, attorneys, journalists, and confidence that the representations being made are accurate. This is precisely why professional credentials are generally mass public record. The public is not entitled to know a person's grade or private academic records. Those are appropriately protected. But whether someone earned a particular degree from a particular institution, held certain licenses, or obtained specific certifications is often public information because patients and consumers have a legitimate interest in evaluating the qualifications of the professionals upon whom they may rely. That principle extends well beyond healthcare. Responsible journalists verify the backgrounds of the people they interview. Attorneys verify the qualifications of expert witnesses. Courts examine credentials before accepting expert testimony. Patients increasingly research physicians before beginning treatment. These practices are not extraordinary. They are expected. History provides powerful reminders of why verification matters. Elizabeth Holmes persuaded investors, business leaders, media organizations, and respected institutions that Theranos had developed revolutionary blood testing technology. For years, many accepted extraordinary claims without demanding extraordinary evidence. It was only when investigative journalists, most notably John Carreyrou of the Wall Street Journal, insisted on verifying those claims that the deception began to unravel. The lesson from Theranos is not that everyone is committing fraud. The lesson is that independent verification protects everyone, including honest professionals. Verification is not hostility. It is accountability. For that reason, I find one aspect of this situation particularly difficult to understand. If someone's publicly represented credentials accurately reflect their education, training, and professional experience, why discourage people from examining publicly available records? Why characterize ordinary background research as suspicious or malicious? Attempts to discourage independent verifications can unintentionally create the very doubts they seek to dispel. Transparency builds confidence. Resistance invites additional scrutiny. To be clear, I'm expressing an opinion based on my own education, experience, and observations. I believe individuals who attempt to verify this particular doctor's publicly stated qualifications may encounter resistance. They may be portrayed as irrational, unstable, or acting with improper motives, when in reality, they are engaging in exactly the kind of due diligence that society expects before placing trust in an expert. In my view, failing to verify significant professional claims is the irresponsible course, not verifying them. If a journalist notices inconsistencies, the ethical response is to investigate. If a patient is considering treatment, the responsible response is to confirm qualifications. If an attorney intends to retain an expert witness, verifying credentials is not optional. It is essential. Imagine for a moment if John Carreyrou had accepted Elizabeth Holmes' narrative without asking difficult questions. Imagine if everyone who attempted to verify her claims had simply been dismissed as obsessive, irrational, or malicious. Theranos might have continued unchecked for far longer than it did. That is why verification matters. Not because every claim is false, but because confidence in extraordinary claims should rest on evidence rather than assumption. And public records exist for precisely that purpose. And so that's why we look up someone's record, someone's license, and to make people think that Christina, when she did that she was somehow acting in a malicious way, or that, there was something wrong with her for doing that. No. Someone who wouldn't do that, especially doing what John Matthias was doing. And in fact, when you do that, when you start having problems with people looking into your background or your educational credentials, whenever you start trying to, I don't know, if you don't want anyone looking into that, to me, that is a red flag. It should be a red flag to everyone. I mean, that's not how it's done. Patients research their doctors all the time. I guess I'm having, hang on a minute. It appears that my connection keeps going in and out again. It usually does this if I'm online for, I guess, and I don't know why, because I've looked at what I said before. Yes, I agree with Betty. If everything's on the up and up, you show your credentials. And you're proud to, because you work hard. You go to school, you study hard, you work hard, and that's your proof right there that you know what you're doing, Okay, so I have things to show you from the yearbooks, if you guys want to see them. When John was playing football in high school, and then when he went to Princeton. And I have some newspaper articles from back then too. So, because we heard about his, he was in high school, he was chosen to be an all-star player on the all-star football team, which is where they take a few good players from each area and they make a football team out of them, and then they play each other. Anyway, let me go to, I'm going to stop sharing this. The screen is going to go black for a second, and then I'm going to open up the yearbook pictures. So just 1 second. I'm going to go to the high school pictures first. And let's see if that will share. Let's see if that's sharing. Okay, it is. That was there at Barrington High School. This was their yearbook. And then now I've got to go to, this is, if you're still able to see that, yeah. Where he was chosen in athletics as being like most athletic in his class. That was his senior year. And this was his senior picture here. This was the house, his childhood home. And it may not look that big in this picture, but that thing is huge. It really is. It's gigantic. And it sits on a big lot. Whoops. Gotta go back to the sharing for a second. Because I have some stuff in there that goes into, I'll be doing the rest of this tomorrow night and the next night. So I'll be doing this 3 nights in a row. Okay. Where did it go? I had all this in order and it's kind of weird. Okay. Now we're going to go to the Princeton stuff. And it looks like it threw it out of order. But oh well. Just a second. It didn't look the right thing. I'm getting there. Hang on. Slow your roll. Just a second. I'm working on it. Okay. So because everything isn't in order, here is, oh, what? That was supposed to be, why did, that says zoom in. Okay, anyway. This was from September 9th in reserve. Basically about him. Because now, son of a bitch. Okay. So, whenever John Matthias played for Princeton, him because his high school career was pretty good. So, Navarro was the coach at the time, And it says here the running corps will be headed by 5'11", 195 John Matthias, all Chicago area, at Barrington, Illinois, who averaged 5.3 yards from reminds the Tigers of Larry Van Pelt with his strength and dedication. And then it goes on to talk about the same area produced, blah, blah, blah. A couple of quick Georgians are 5'9", 175, Mike Coventry, and 5'10", 166, Gary Ellis, blah, blah, blah. Well, Mike Coventry is the one that ends up being the star of the team here. And in the beginning, John Matthias does have, his freshman year, he does have a few good runs. But then it just kind of all goes to shit. And I think it kind of starts with he's actually getting hit by some big boys. And it doesn't go well. So he's on the reserve. This is their 1986, which is his senior yearbook. And then, like I said, this, even though I loaded order, and here's his senior picture. And you may be wondering why he started in 81 and graduated in 86. I don't know. He was a 5th year senior. Anyway, don't know why his picture isn't in here either. But there were several people that didn't have their pictures in there. Maybe they were gone that day. That they were supposed to have their pictures in by. All right, it seemed like we had to have our senior pictures in by like the first of the year. I don't know. Maybe he was hurt. I don't know. He was hurt a lot. Let me go back here. This is the in philosophy. I don't know if you guys can read this or not. I can barely see it. See, dang it. Why does it keep doing that? In philosophy, class of blah, 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 blah. I'll just go down here. Alexander Guthrie, McCosh Prize, John Michael Matthias. So he did win that. Princeton has a library online where you can see some of this stuff. And then some of the things you can't see. And then some of the things, I don't know why it said pending. There was a couple of papers that he had done. I can't remember what it was for, but anyway. No, it wasn't that. It was had something to do with the alumni. Anyway, it said pending, and I don't know why. So that was weird. But he did actually win the McCosh Prize. And it doesn't say the year out here to the side, so that's weird too. But on several things, it didn't. I'm assuming that it has to be, I can't remember what year the latest that I saw on some of these pages was, but we have 87, 89. So this was obviously published, well after he received this. Anyway, this right here I think is very telling. This was published in August of 1985, which was the year that he graduated in 86. So this was his senior year playing football, his 5th year senior. But it says, John Matthias, 5'10", 222, is a senior now and has one final shot to show what he can do at fullback. Followers of Princeton football have heard about his potential for 3 years. But after a good freshman season, Injuries have kept him on the sidelines. Last year, after a promising start, carries, he broke his leg in the Bucknell game. At first, because that's what the newspaper article said. Game, and it said that he had a fractured ankle. So, but anyway, I just thought it was interesting because it says right there, he has one final shot to show what he can do at fullback, because he never did show what he could do. His freshman year, yes, he had some good runs, but means that kind of guy was who was the one they were always talking about. Like this write up right here, this is the one where it says Princeton coach Navarro hopes to have teams swimming in talent. And right in here, Matthias and how he had been on the All-Star team in Barrington and everything. That was the big article. I had shown you the blown up size a minute ago. But that was his high school team. Like I said, this wasn't, for some reason, none of this crap loaded in order. And this was where it said he had a broken ankle. Fullback John Matthias was lost for the season with a broken ankle. The hard-luck junior has played very little in 3 seasons because of injuries. Now, and there's another place where it says, and was this story here, John Matthias, the 5'9", 187-pound junior, sat out his sophomore year with a case of mono. So, and is now ready to play. And then, of course, he had when he did go to play after that, he had a broken, something got broke. I can't remember what it was on this one. Anyway, so he was always sitting out with injuries, and that one year he had mono. So he never did ever get to play except his freshman year when he ran some. But that he was second string. But I had talked to somebody and they said, oh yeah, he had this great football career, and he played for Princeton, and he was it was just great. He had this great career. No, he didn't have a scholarship. So and I was reading about that too, because basically, if you play ball for Princeton, you're paying to be there. You're paying to go to college there, and you got to try out. Everybody's got to try out, but they also were recruited, but they didn't have any type of scholarship, football scholarship stuff. So anyway, there was, let me go back to, the screen's gonna go black a second, and I have some more to share. Get out of this. Okay. And I thought because when I was first looking for everything on John Matthias, and nothing was coming up, and then I got to the yearbook, and I was like, finally, I got to the 86 yearbook, because at first I was like, well, he should have graduated in 85, but then I saw where he had said something about graduating in 86, and I was like, okay. So then I got to the 86 yearbook, And then it pulls up the tiger face in the yearbook, and I'm like, what the hell? I can't find jack shit, you know? It's like, why? Oh my God, it was just crazy. So, okay. Now, I did a, the heck? I did, another little talk about John Matthias as well, but let me go back to these pictures here. I didn't know I was going to have like to babysit tonight or today, and it went like hours longer than what I thought. And so, of course, and so I didn't have the time to actually go over this like I really like to before I start. And then, of course, everything happens right before I start the live stream. So, oh well. I'm glad you guys could make it anyway. Let's see here. I have. Let's see if this is the right one. Okay, so if any of you guys didn't see where he had talked about the semi running over him, I have it here. So let me go to share. And this is just kind of part of it, but it talks about, I didn't so much flowery language like some of you use. This guy could say, I went outside and watched the sunset tonight. And it would turn to a 25,000 word essay. So I cut some of it down, but he talks about here, where he gets ran over, and he says a truck swerved slightly, trying to avoid me, but the driver realized the futility of such a last-minute adjustment, and he swung the truck directly over my now motionless body. Drips of corrosive diesel engulfed my body. How? Was the truck like dripping diesel everywhere? The engine wailed and hummed as the brakes screeched in a last-ditch effort to right the truck. The muffler grazed my shoulder. Somehow. So I guess he flew over the top of the truck, because the muffler pipes go up the side the truck, up beside the truck, beside the cab. They're called stacks. So you're telling us that you flew over the top of the truck somehow. Okay. But you're under the truck. So you flew over the top of the truck where the muffler hit you, and then you somehow diesel sprayed all over you as well. And you come out under the truck. I don't know. Seems like you could have described that a little bit better. Okay, so the brakes screeched in a last-ditch effort to right the truck. The muffler grazed my shoulder, shredding my t-shirt and skin. And the semi-truck thrust me out of its entrails without much fanfare. Well, it sounds like there was a whole lot of fucking fanfare going on there. So, okay. And then, let's go back to where you gathered yourself up, stood up, and ran across the road to safety. From across the 4-lane divide, I could see my mother crying. It was the first and last time I have ever witnessed my mother crying. The truck driver, she's probably crying. Never mind, I'm not going to say it. The truck driver told my mother that he had heard a loud thud, such as his truck, or sound as his truck careened over my body, and he knew I had been instantly killed. That's weird because my uncle was killed by a truck, and because it pulled out in front of him, and his car went into the back of the trailer, and the guy drove for 1.5 miles with him back there, and he never even knew the car was attached to his trailer. So that's kind of weird that, I don't know, strange that a little kid, that you would feel a little kid like that. It, anyway, my body's brief immobility in the middle of the road. Now, are you in the middle of the road, or are you over, I don't know where the fuck you are. Okay. Only added to the worries. Now, okay, and then it said something about you, something about the accident, and then my mother never told my father about the accident, and there was no visit to the hospital, even though my body hurt for months afterwards. Blood soaked my t-shirt and blue jeans. From that moment forward, the accident was relegated to complete silence for nearly 40 years, as if it only existed in some imaginary world that children inhabit, as if the entire incident had merely been a Looney Tunes cartoon. And I was the roadrunner who got up unscathed from under the anvil every time. Except I wasn't unscathed. My body had healed, but the emotional wounds from the accident cut an invisibly cavernous swath within my small 5-year-old body. Okay, I cut it off because I was kind of getting there. To say, if you were run over, let's just indulge this for a second here. Okay, so you're in your car, the car with your mom. I'm assuming you were in the front seat. Your mom's driving. The passenger door comes open. You fall out. Because you said earlier, and I wish I would have clipped that now, but that there's this blood streak on the wiring from where you fell. And I'm just wondering how the fuck you ended up in the middle of the road right after that, where the semi gets you. And then you got to run across 4 lanes of traffic and shit. And I don't know. It's weird. I don't follow anything you say ever. I can't figure you out from a Looney Tunes cartoon and to be like Looney Tunes half the time, because I can't understand this. Is it me? It may just be me. Because to me, I mean, I've had to analyze what people have said before and police reports and stuff, and I'm like, I'm looking at this going, you fall out of the car onto the white line, and then somehow you ended up in the middle of a 4-lane road or 4-lane highway, and you got to run back over to the white line. And is it kind of like the buffalo story? Is it kind of like the bear story? It seemed like there was a bear after you one time too. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just all fucking weird. I don't get it. I can't figure it out. I don't want to figure it out. Bethy says, dude was bouncing. Okay, no seatbelts. Look, I know, yeah, we didn't have seatbelts back then. Heck, we're lucky if our parents even remembered us half the time. Go in the store, leave. You know, my mom had 6 kids. You think there were 6 seatbelts in the back seat of that, whatever we were driving at the time? Which was usually, like I said, my dad ran the chop shop, so my stepdad. My real dad was always bouncing around from South Korea, California, whatever. He was into martial arts and he did shows and everything. And we usually had, if you ever watched like Gas Monkey Garage or anything like that, my stepdad would get old cars and then redo them. Those were the legit jobs that he did. He would get old cars and fix them up. And it would be like an old, like, Mustang or, old Corvette or old whatever. An old muscle car. Chevelle. And in the back seat, if you even had seat belts, we were fighting over the back window is what we did. That's where we wanted to be on a car trip. And parents are like, while you're back there, clean out the back window, Meanwhile, mom's like smoking cigarette after cigarette, throwing them out the window. They're landing back there in the back window, in your eye, or whatever. So, I grew up a long time ago, back in the day. Not in the 60s, late 70s. But it's like, and it is kind of weird because there are some things that John mentions that has actually happened to me. Like, I remember being this freaking, like, 65. My stepdad had redone this, like, 65 Impala. And they have, like, big doors. Heavy. And the door wasn't shut all the way. And we went in the store and got a pop, and we came back out. And I guess I didn't shut the door all the way. And it came open when he went around a corner. And I just remember about to fall out, but I didn't. And my stepdad reached over and shut the door real quick. And he was like, God damn it, you didn't shut the door when you got in. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm like 5 years old. Why didn't you check and see if it was shut for me? And then time when I was in high school that I actually did fall out of a car right in front of the police station. They pulled us over, and of course, I'm having to do like a breathalyzer. It's like, was somebody in the car. It was when the new Camaros first came out, and I was with the high schoolers, and I was in junior high. And but I was sitting up front in the passenger seat, and I took a drink of a pop, and I wasn't drinking anything else. And somebody said a joke or something, and I started laughing, and I thought, oh my God, this car is brand new. This is the first time anybody's even drove it, and I'm going to spit this pop out every ground. And I did, but the door pulled me out. And when I fell out, and so I'm being drugged on the ground in front of the cop. The cops were standing out there. I lived in a small town, but the cops were standing out there. It was when you used to drive Maine, now you get pulled over for whatever. But anyway, it's so embarrassing. So yes, but I didn't get run over by a semi or anything like that, but it still hurt. And I was still bloody. But anyway, getting back, I'm sorry, my ADD is taking over right now. Some of the stuff that he has said is just kind of like, some of us have been there, and it's like, it's just not it's not registering. It's not making any sense because, we know what happens, when we know there's not a fucking muffler underneath the semi. We know that semis aren't just driving down the road, dumping diesel everywhere on everything. We know. The fact that you don't know is weird. I mean, it's bizarre. These stories are weird, they're bizarre. And just listening to those, I mean, are those even up anymore? Because I saw this on the Wayback Machine. Because if they are, I would be like, what the fuck? I'm not taking my kid to this guy for any type of therapy whatsoever. Speaking of which, let's go look at his degree. Because I got it right here. Okay, it's going to go black again. But tomorrow night, I'm going to get into a lot of the degree stuff and him, living with his mentor and all of that and all the places they went to together. But I'm going to share this with you tonight, and then tomorrow night we'll get into a lot of the other stuff. Where am I going? I don't know. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. I think that, wait, where did it go? Oh, wait. No, that's not it. I'm probably just going to have to show it to you tomorrow night because I don't want to sit here and have to dig through it while you guys wait. That's not it either. Okay, so dang it. It just figures. Sorry. So anyway, I'm going to show you what I had loaded on my, or I had posted it anyway, last week. Wait, did that not load? Hello, it's not. Okay, there it goes. Okay, you guys can see that, right? Okay, so this was the actual case with the actual case that John was on, that he was supposedly a forensic expert hired on this case by the defense. And like I said, if you guys want to look at it, you can go. Last week I had posted the link to my Google Drive where I have it, and then also the transcript to this case. And I had put it in the comments. So just click on last week's post, and then the whole thing will load, and then you'll see the link come up. But like I said, but I guess everybody hadn't seen where I had posted it, so not a whole lot of people had seen it. Oh God, the part that I wanted to bring out, yeah. Was where the court was really ripping into John, and it said that, they said that he had no experience being a federal witness at all, basically saying why he was even on this case, because he didn't have any experience in it. And the only time they had, or the last time they had found that he had been like a state witness on anything and given a expert testimony in court was in 2011. So, and like we see it right here, Matthias' psychosexual report is not reliable and cannot support further downward variance because it says the government asks that the court give no weight to Matthias' opinion as to Dittmer III's recidivism risk, as it lacks sufficient indicia of reliability to support its probable accuracy. I need to go into right here. To the extent this court is inclined to give any weight to Matthias' psychosexual report, the government seeks to challenge Matthias' qualifications as an expert in the field of adult sex offender recidivism and would request Dittmer III be ordered to present Matthias as a witness for this court's consideration. Matthias has never testified as an expert in federal court. That's interesting, isn't it? Has never testified as an expert as to adult psychosexual evaluations or recidivism. Ouch, dog. Recidivism. And the last time he testified as an expert was in 2011 in family juvenile court proceedings. So, and then it lists here, because the VRAG is not an appropriate assessment for Dittmer III, and Matthias did not utilize the SORAG, the government will not focus on either of these assessments in this response. So he didn't even give him the correct evaluation tool. And even if he, well, I say correct, because it says even if he had, between the two of these, the VRAG and the SORAG that are related, if he would have given the correct one of those, those are still flawed because of their definition of recidivism. So he didn't give him the right test. He didn't use the right tools on the guy. He didn't, it's like he didn't know what he was doing. And it's like, why didn't he know? Why didn't he know the correct tools to use on this person? If he's been doing this for like 30 years, and that raises another question because, you know, like we all have seen, I was going to tell you guys this at the beginning of the live stream. Andy Kopsa did an excellent job of showing from the time John Matthias started his studies and everything, from the time he was at Princeton till when he went to USC. She did an excellent job at breaking everything down. The only thing is that I would like to clarify is that she had said something about USC. I would hope USC would be an APA school, accredited school, and I think she assumed that it was, but it is not. And they do have schools of psychology at USC, but then they also have the Rossier School, which is the Rossier School of Education. And I don't think everybody understands. Yes, the Rossier School of Education has a program that is called it's counseling psychology. But counseling psychology is not something that you graduate with and you go into psychology right off the bat, unless you are counseling K through 12 kids. That's what it is for. And you can read that on the Rossier schools and read about their degrees and things you can get with this degree. It says you can be a school counselor. You can oh crap, I don't list. I can provide that tomorrow night too. But it's not a regular psychology degree where you're just going to go into general psychology, which is what his license is in. And that's what I find weird, because his license is in general psychology. If he went ahead and got extra credits in the APA accredited program, then he could have gotten a way to get that general psychology license. But he would have had to gone through a lot of, internships and everything. Why not just go to an APA accredited school and take the psychology class? I mean, why are you having to go through why are you going and jumping through all these hoops and things? Why are you doing it that way? Is it because the person that is giving you the hours and everything is the person that you're living with, that you're in a financial relationship with, that is your mentor? I mean, is that easier to do it that way? I just find it all odd. But Andy Kopsa, if you go to her YouTube page, the last week she's been doing a lot of coverage over his certifications and his license and all of that. He has a license in Utah. It's a little bit different license than Nevada. But the thing is the Rossier School of Education, like I said, I couldn't get it pulled up here. I'll have it ready for you tomorrow. That it is a completely different way and completely different set of it's a completely different set of psychology. What do I want to say? Program, tools, whatever. It's not regular psychology. Like I said, on that page it said you can get started teaching, or not teaching, but you can get started. Well, you could, I guess, be a teacher, but your job title would be school counselor. You could do that. And I noticed that a lot of the jobs that he did intern with at first were places that had children involved. So even though it might have been like a domestic abuse situation, he would have been not evaluating or anything, but he would have been involved with therapy of the child. So I don't understand how that gives you experience with therapy of the whole family, except for if that was included with that master's program. So if that was included in the master's program, then yeah, then he would have experience doing that. The problem is there's no certifications, or there's no way of checking that. There's no, like, show me. Just show me. It should be public, your certifications, your licenses, all of that should be public. Like I said before, nothing that is private should be shown or given to anyone. Just the things that give people the confidence to know that you are good at what you do. When people go to school and earn their degrees, and they have like the McCosh Prize and all of that, you want people to know that. You don't hide that. Or you don't even give the appearance that you're hiding that. And you don't get pissed off if somebody wants to look into it, because that would be silly. And what I'm going to leave you with tonight is that example of Elizabeth Holmes. And it's due diligence is what it is. Anyone that would not check into anyone's background, that is saying that they have, all of these qualities, do is to check all these things, and that way no one can be harmed. Everything is above board. Nothing needs to be hidden. And everybody's on the same page. So I don't understand why anyone would want to hide anything like that. I would be proud of it. I mean, you spend, how long was it? You graduated in '86, and you finally get your license in 2006? Or was it 2000? Yeah, 2007? You spend 21 years going through all of that? That's a long time. I mean, I think the normal pathway is like 8 years, 7 years. You spent 21 years. You want people to know how hard you work, right? You don't want to hide that. You want to be proud of it. So that's all I got to say about that part of it. We still got 2 more parts to go. We're going to peel this onion one layer at a time. And there's a lot to it. So we're all going to be crying by the end of it, probably. Anyway, I thank you all for joining me tonight. I know you guys could be watching everybody else's live streams. And I just appreciate you all being here. And anyone that's watching on the replay crew, I hope you come back tomorrow and the next night, because I've got a lot more to show you, a lot more receipts that I'm going to be dropping. And it's going to be interesting, because we're going to go into all the tangled webs of relationships that we got going on here. So anyway, I will see you tomorrow. I thank you all for showing up, and I have looked at the chat. It's hard for me to read it while I'm talking, because I can't do 2 things at once. I'm just that type of person. So I am going to look back over it again, though. And if anybody had any questions, I'll try to address them. I'll post it on my page, or you can ask me again in the comment section, and then I'll answer you there. So anyway, so I will see you guys tomorrow night. And if you can't make it, hit me up on the replay crew. Thanks, and good night.